You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. Bitcoin, Ether, Solana, Doge, and more. Cryptocurrencies and digital assets are taking the financial world by storm. This exploding market provides everything a savvy trader needs: volatility, volume, and liquidity, provided you know how to find it. That's where we come in. Welcome to the Crypto Rundown. Each week, we'll break down the latest trading activity, trends, and developments throughout the world's leading crypto derivatives markets. If it's moving the crypto markets, then you'll find it on the Crypto Rundown. The Crypto Rundown is brought to you by Amber Data. If you're entering the digital asset class, you'll need access to granular on-chain and market data from multiple venues to power research, trading, risk management, and compliance. Amber Data delivers comprehensive data and insights into blockchain networks, crypto markets, and decentralized finance, empowering financial institutions to apply traditional finance methods to digital assets. Amber Data eliminates the infrastructure setup, integration challenges, and maintenance headaches to access digital asset data, reducing cost and time to market to enter the digital asset class. Learn more and download their digital asset data guide at www.amberdata.io. Now it's time to dive into the exploding world of crypto derivatives. It's time for the Crypto Rundown.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back once again. It is Monday on the old network, time to dive into the ever-evolving, ever-exciting world of crypto derivatives. Yes, it is time once again for the Crypto Rundown. My name, of course, Mark Longo from the OptionsInsider.com, the only one, as well as from the network upon which all you folks are binging. If you're just listening to crypto, I don't blame you. It's a fun show. But we do have nearly a dozen other programs coming at you, carving up the world of options and derivatives in many different ways. So make sure you check them out, especially for this audience, Options Bootcamp. Very popular show and great for this audience because it helps get you up to speed in some of the terms we throw around here on this show quite a bit. Of course, if you want to go above and beyond from that, you want to talk also a lot of crypto derivatives talk spilling into our pro Q&A sessions these days. Only one place to get those, theoptionsinsider.com/pro. And wherever you get our content, could be the pro, could be regular, wherever you get our content, make sure if you like what you hear, throw a like, a star, a comment, all that fun at the end of the day does help new people continue to discover the content. As we discover who's joining us on the old program today, I'm pleased to be joined by our old friend, Mr. Bill himself, a.k.a. Bill Ulivieri from Cenacle Capital Management, also the author of The Tome, helping folks with their crypto estate planning, not perhaps a thing people think about, but an important area. Mr. Bill, welcome back to the show, sir.
Great to be back, Mark. Thank you so much for having me today.
All right, Bill, then with the team assembled, let's do it. Let's dive right on into the Bitcoin breakdown.
It's time to explore the latest trending activity, trends, and developments across the world's leading crypto market. It's time for the Bitcoin Breakdown.
All right, everybody, let's do it. Let's commence operations on the big dog, which is the Bitcoin Breakdown. What's going on in the world of the old BTC, listeners? And coming into the start of the show, we're hanging out a little bit higher, a little bit loftier than we were this time a week ago. This time on the show a week ago, 69,375. Coming in to start the show today, 69, pretty much 876, almost exactly 500 handles higher, 501. to be precise. Intra-week, we did get a little bit higher. We did get north of that 70K, almost 72,000 to be precise, 71,908. And the low dipping in the other direction, 67. By the way, the high came on Friday last week. And the low came pretty much right around showtime last week, a little bit after it actually, with the low coming 67,590. So we did a lot of living during the show last week. Intriguing stuff, but all that a long way around to saying about 500 handles to the good this week. Mr. Bill will start there. It's been a little bit since we chatted here on the show, almost exactly a month, so you're due for your monthly check-in. What's been catching your eye out there in the world of Bitcoin since the last time we chatted, sir?
Here's what's catching my eye in Bitcoin, and that is while the underlying security, the underlying token, it seems to be, it wants to go, like it wants to take off. We have a lot of expectation, especially with the recent halving. Remember the halving that happened a few months ago? Like everybody was just all in, pushing all the chips over for higher prices, and we haven't really received it. And what I find most interesting is, one of our strategies that we use for our IRA clients is Bitcoin versus gold. And Bitcoin versus gold ratio, like this pairs trade that we use, it keeps making lower highs. And I find that really interesting. So I still think that Bitcoin, the original proposition, everything we've said in the last few years is still valid. But I just find it interesting that with all this bullish activity, more AUM, the halving, like everything we've talked about, it still hasn't budged off the starting line. And I'm just kind of worried about that. So that's what I find interesting lately, Mark.
Seems like a setup for some vol coming in. Let's see if that is the case. Remember, listeners, of course, all this data coming at you courtesy of our friends over there at Amber Data. AmberData.io, the place to go to kick the tires and light the fires. Just had Greg on the show recently. They're doing a lot of cool stuff over there. Amber Lens. A lot of fun stuff. So if you are intrigued by these markets at all and you listen into a show like this, so I have to assume that you are, head on over to AmberData.io. Tell them we sent you. They'll be happy to hear from you. As we head on into the realm of volatility, let's start near dated as we are wont to do and then work our way out, listeners. Weekly vol, again, with all this upside and downside kind of settling out not that far from where we were this time last week. That means vol coming in on the weekly front, 47.5 this time last week, 46.3 this week. So settling in ever so slightly this week. Again, it is the start of summertime here, not traditionally a very volatile period, but we do still have some catalysts out there, at least from a broad market perspective. We have the Fed coming up this week. We have CPI, both of which can be drivers in the crypto space, that is sure. On the equity side, we have NVIDIA sucking up all the oxygen in the room right now, so that tends to drive some volume. And the tech names, which tends to spill over into crypto as well. A lot of people argue that crypto these days is pretty much just a tech allocation in your portfolio, so certainly some correlation there. Either way, all that conspiring to bring vol in a little bit. That's the same case on the 30-day front as well. 51 1/3 on the show last week. Back below a 50 handle this week, 49 1/4. It's coming in a little over 2, about 2.1 points. Again, kind of keeping that theme alive from last week of the gentle easing of volatility. If we go out a little bit farther, listeners, all the way out 6 months, what are the hodlers up to? Well, they're coming in a little bit as well. 63 even was the vol this time a week ago, 61 2/3. Also interesting to note just the progression of vol, going from the weekly, at the farther out you get, the more juice, the more vol you have on the Bitcoin front, which is kind of interesting. Topping out, at least right now, north of a 60 on the 6-month vol. So intriguing stuff afoot. Let's see if the skew is backing that up. And the answer is kind of. Let's go out to the weekly skew first, listeners. Last week, we were positive, but ever so slightly, about 3/4 of a point to the upside, which is pretty much flat. This week, a little bit more juice to the upside on the weekly skew, positive 2.5. Going out a month, we were a positive 1 exactly on the show last week, so hanging out ever so slightly biased to the upside. This week, a little bit more juice, 2.66 to be precise on the 30-day front. And going out 6 month, the hodlers looking a little bit more optimistic to the upside as well. 3 3/4 was their bias last week. This week, all the way up to a 4.1. So looking ever so slightly more biased to the upside on the skew front, which is intriguing. But again, we are kind of in this almost gentle drift, gentle malaise period out there in Bitcoin. So I wouldn't read too much into these skew numbers till they start really looking heavily biased in one direction or the other. Mr. Bill, anything catching your eye from either a skew or a vol front in Bitcoin this week, sir?
Mark, not really. It just, it seems like I said, it has been very, very quiet. Bollinger Bands, the 10-week moving averages are getting more narrow and narrow, right? So we're keeping an eye on that. But I would say for the most part, there's nothing. It seems like the spring is being wound, and we're just not quite sure which way the underlying assets is going to take off. So, we're keeping an eye closely on things and always looking for contradictions and paradoxes in the market. And I do believe that I'm seeing them from our perspective. It's just that nothing has just launched yet. Like we're waiting for that event or that news story to, pull the trigger and the hammer is going to fall down on the chamber and just see what happens, how things go that way.
Indeed. Let's see what's going on out there in the world of the ETPs and related products out there on the crypto side. Bill, we'll start with your favorite. I know you love it. You can't get enough BITO out there these days. The market seems like they can get enough of it right now. It's up slightly. At least it was to start the show. I'm sure if I re-rack it right now, it might be almost unched. BITO 2640 when we kicked off the show. Like we said, kind of gentle drift. Again, that theme, gentle drift to the upside out there. Listeners, up a whopping 0.2 of a point. If I re-racked it right now, it's up about 1/10 of a point, about a 2630. So not exactly an explosive week for BITO, which does kind of line up with what we're seeing out there on the broad Bitcoin front as well. The ADV is about 80,000 contracts. Still robust. It's still more than the lion's share of options products out there, but down about 3,000 from the week. And today looking decently active, but it looks like we're probably not going to hit that today. 58,000 contracts on the tape. What is the vol in BITO, you might be wondering. 30-day vol is about a 62, up about 2 points from this time last week. So decently frothy, all things considered. As you can see, a little bit of a premium on the BITO front versus what we're seeing out there in traditional Bitcoin 30-day vol. And in terms of action, what is the big dog out there? It's still the Jan 30s, 109,000 of those bad boys. I've expressed my thoughts on using this way to play BITO in the past, buying what are still out of the money calls longer term. Not my favorite way for a variety of reasons, including the fact that BITO just has, I think the technical term is a ridiculous dividend. The most recent dividend, listeners, just a week ago, literally on the show, they paid $1.76. That puts their annual dividend so far to $7.22, which is a 27.25% dividend yield. So again, if you're confused about the relationship between dividends and calls in particular, then again, check out our options bootcamp program or maybe options playbook radio. Help get you up to speed a little bit more. But those kind of things, especially aggressive dividends like that, tend to weigh on positions like these out of the money calls. So, and plus, if you own those, you're not collecting those dividends, which of course are a big component to the returns of BITO out. You're leaving $1.76 on the table as of this time last week, which is, again, a lot. And the week before, I should say the month before that, it was $1.68 on the dividend side. My goodness. You're closing on $4 worth of dividends just in the last couple of months. So again, that's been a pretty crazy run for Bitcoin, but crazy times out there. Mr. Bill, anything catching your eye in your favorite product, which is BITO these days?
Well, Mark, it's really interesting that you bring that up. And again, it's this constant dance in my head between BITO and the grayscale products. And again, I appreciate what BITO is doing. I appreciate all the ETF providers and this dividend yield. I mean, have I completely got my arms around it? No. Have I spent, a lot of time on it? No. And I need to revisit this because you cannot argue these yields. And I do believe that the yield comes partially from being invested in, U.S. Treasuries, which are paying, 5.20 something, 5.23% on some Treasuries. But also, I think that the increase in the Bitcoin price, right, and the way the futures contracts are skewed with contango or backwardization is where all this dividend yield comes in from. Is that correct? And so while I need to dig into it a little bit more, and I haven't done my homework, and you and I have been talking about this, my gosh, for 9 months, but you got to live by the sword and die by the sword. And I just want to make sure that if I'm going to invest our client assets in this BITO, that I fully understand where this yield's coming from. And are there any hidden snipers that are going to take this away? So again, I really need to make a commitment to doing my due diligence in this one product because we haven't dabbled into it yet. Because again, I like to dance with the people that brought us here, and that's grayscale, until further notice. And the new things they're rolling out, I find that intriguing and exciting.
Yeah, you're right. You're not wrong to look a gift horse in the mouth when it comes to ridiculous dividend yields like that, Mr. Bill. You see that, and you're like, oh, I might want to check under the covers, see what the heck is actually going on out there. And you're right. Most of it is driven by that structure of the futures out there. And that's why a lot of it is driven in months when we have these crazy moves to the upside, mostly in BITOs, when we see those heavy dividends as a result. Every month, obviously, is not going to do that. If you go back to February, it was 35 cents, still a hefty dividend. It was a $20-odd underlying at the time, 14 cents in December, 12 cents before that. So it's not always $1.76, obviously, but still, it is hefty. And certainly you should do your due diligence, listeners, before diving into a new product like that. Maybe you don't like is strong, but if you're not comfortable with with BITO, Mr. Bill, allow me to present. This is one that it wasn't even really on my radar, but our buddy Mr. Greg Magadini from Amber Data has been mentioning it a lot on the show, including last week. So adding it to the rotation more for fun this week than anything else. Bill, if you're not comfortable with BITO, allow me to present BitX, the 2x levered Bitcoin ETF. How does that float your boat, sir?
Oh boy. Listen. Once bitten, twice shy. So back in the day when I first started our investment advisory firm business, we were doing a lot of VXX, cover call writing and cash secured puts. And I'm telling you, I never again. I don't. There's enough money to be made in single beta, old school exchange traded products. I don't need the triple and the double beta ETFs. That's just not my thing. People love it. I know they like the juice. They like the adrenaline. It's just not for me.
Yeah, so if Bitcoin is too boring for you and BITO listeners, allow me to present BitX, 2x levered ETF. I bring it up because it is optionable. Trading 45 3/4, it was actually at the start of the show, puts it up about 2/3 of a buck. Right now, if I re-rack, it's up to about 45.5, so it's giving up about 1/4 of that, but still up a bit on the week, as it's supposed to be, after all, if it's a levered product. The ADV is 14,000 contracts a day, so it's actually respectable. It's not lighting the world on fire, but it's also not 200 contracts a day, so you can get some things off out there. And today, at that level exactly, at about a 14,000 volume-wise today. In terms of vol, if BITO at a 62 wasn't doing it for you, allow me to present a 109 volatility out there in BitX, listeners. So kind of a silly one. I know Greg likes it, and it's kind of a fun one to talk about. So a fun one to put into the mix a little bit here. If you're wondering, by the way, what is the number one size position in BitX? This is something I was talking about with Greg last week, too, kind of the use case for these. 7,100 of the Jan 2026 70 puts. So, yes, going out beyond this January to next January, deep in the money puts. The 70 puts. So you're talking over $24 in the money options. They're not the traditional use case. It's going to tie up a lot of capital. We kind of discussed that on the show last week. If you're intrigued by that use case, then check out the episode from last week if you missed it. And then behind it, we do have the more traditional play, the Jan of next. Actually, no, these are June. Excuse me. These are June of this year. 50s, 5-0s, 4,800 of those. So, I mean, it is a levered product. It can get there certainly by June expiration. It just seems like that might be a bit of a bridge too far. Let's look really quickly and see where they opened those bad boys, listeners. Yeah, they opened those not too long ago. It looks like a lot of them just 3 days ago. I was going to say, I don't recall those when we did the show last week. Looks like they bought a lot of them for about $1.70. So 50 calls expiring this month in BitX, listeners, for $1. Some of them traded $2.95 at one point. My goodness. Wow, whipping all over the place. BitX was moving as well. BitX moved about $3.35 in that time. So again, that's what you're getting. That's what Bill was talking about with some of these levered products. If that sounds a little crazy for you, these swings, and BitX is not for you. But clearly, there's some intriguing areas to explore, at least out there. And wrapping it up here on the not just ETF, but also some of the underlying fronts. We can't ignore the name a lot of you put your volume into, which is Mara, 19 3/4, up about 0.2 of a point. Since our last show, 282,000 contracts. Actually, that's the ADV out there in Mara. So ADV, that's up 18,000 from this time last week. Some of you may ask, why don't you do Coinbase? Well, Coinbase, the ADV is 184,000. So the ADV is fully 100,000 more in Mara than it is in Coinbase. And it got up to about 400,000 not too long ago. So this thing can put up some numbers, even more than Coinbase. Today, 156,000. Doesn't seem like it's going to get there today. The vol also explosive at 98, up about 3 points. And if you're wondering what is the size position in Mara right now, it is the June 30s, 3 O's. 31, almost 32,000 of those. If you've been listening to the show for a little bit, you know Mara's been kind of whipsawing between 15 to the downside and close to 30 to the upside. Clearly, these were probably opened closer to the latter there, and they seem like a bit of a bridge too far for now, but we got some time, and Mara has been known to move, and it is trading at nearly a triple-digit vol. So, intriguing stuff on that front. But you know what, listeners, speaking of the weird front and the fun stuff, it is time to explore the altcoin universe.
It's time to move beyond Bitcoin and find out what's moving the rest of the crypto marketplace. It's time to boldly venture into the altcoin universe.
All right, let's do it, listeners. Let's do our dance in the altcoin universe. Let's start in the top 10, aka where is Toncoin this week? Is it at number 10? No, it is not, listeners. That is Cardano. So Cardano is sliding back into the number 10 spot. Cost you $15.8 billion worth of market cap to break into the top 10 this week. That gets you to our old friend Cardano. Number 9, right behind it, we have Toncoin, $17.4 billion worth of market cap. It was hanging out number 10 last week, so it managed to fight its way up one slot. And then back to its old slot at number 8 is everyone's favorite / least favorite. It's Doge, $21 billion, pretty much exactly worth of market cap. Number 7, XRP, $27.7 billion. Number 6, USD Coin, $32.1 billion. Number 5, Solana, $74.5 billion. Number 4, it's BNB, $96.1 billion. Number 3, it's Tether, $112.5 billion. Number 2, it's ETH, because of course it is, $442.8 billion. And the big dog, Bitcoin, looking slightly bigger this week, $1.37 trillion worth of market cap. But let's get out to number 2 in the market cap. Number 1, a lot of your hearts. Of course, it is ETH. Looking slightly lighter this time than it was a week ago. Of course, last week we were still kind of basking in the afterglow of what's going on with these ETH ETF approvals. Seems like some of that euphoria may be dying down a little bit. We're down nearly 100 handles, 97 points. We were at 37.87 on the show last week, 36.90 coming into the start of the show. This week, the high came exactly 100 points above our level from the show last week, 38.87. That came on Wednesday of last week. The low coming on Friday, 36.15. Again, kind of hanging out towards the middle of that range right now. But Mr. Bill, I know you've been watching a lot of the goings on in the ETH space. Let's start with the forthcoming ETFs, because we haven't talked with you since all that noise really started breaking. What are your thoughts on this whole ETF approval, sir, and what it means for the ETH side of the crypto universe?
Yeah, I think, Mark, this is the conversation that we've had before, and, digital assets and this blockchain space, this is a thing. I mean, this is not, it's away from, guys just trading and mining in their parents' basement to legitimate investment advisory firms and the BlackRocks and Fidelities of the world are getting into the space, and we're attracting assets under management. This is the new thing. I mean, it's, I think, more exciting than artificial intelligence, which really there's not a lot of things you can do with AI right now in terms of what there's like NVIDIA, AMD, the chip makers, and maybe Palantir and a few other names. But, there's tens of thousands of cryptocurrencies. And by approving the ETFs, I mean, the SEC really is kind of bringing this, they're bringing these things into the world of securities, right? Wasn't it what Gensler really wanted? He wanted to categorize tokens, cryptocurrency, as securities, and everybody's like, no, they're not a security. They're not a security. And now, as the ETFs get approved, they're securities. So it's like a de facto backdoor way of getting hundreds, if not thousands, of cryptocurrencies under the guise of the SEC. I'm very excited about the ETF for Ethereum. Super excited especially about the one for Ethereum Classic, because it was trading so far under net asset value on the grayscale side. And once again, we have Solana, Stacks, like all these other tokens, all these layer 2 like we're moving beyond Ethereum already, and we're moving into layer 2 ETFs going to be approved like by next year. So I'm super stoked, super excited, and I just love being in this place. I really do. It's a great place to be. A lot of trading opportunities.
Well, as you mentioned, your favorite products out there, the Grayscale. I will give you credit. You have been ahead of the curve on a lot of this stuff with the Grayscale, especially as it comes to its discount or premium to net asset value. Looks like the ETH Classic Trust had some interesting runs out there. ETH Classic, another underlying we don't talk about a lot. The ETH Classic Trust, also one of the lesser heralded of the Grayscale products out there. But this is one that's been on your radar for a while. We know we've seen that kind of discount ebb and flow out there. Catch us up. Give us the latest on how that trade is playing out in light of all this news on the ETF front, sir.
Well, we had a nice pop in the Ethereum Classic ETF. It was trading around $19 a token. I'm sorry, $19 a share. Now it has definitely pulled back. I mean, there was some concern over like the ETF news on Ethereum was promoted, and then there seemed to be some negative tone. So it had a really nice sell-off. You know what? The discount to net asset value has got to be about 55% here, right? So I'm taking out my trusty calculator, but it's more than 52 to 55%. So again, if thematically we believe that the Grayscale trusts are going to get their ETFs approved, and we believe that Ethereum is going to be approved, and we believe that all the other tokens and closed-end trusts that Grayscale already have and are building will get approved, then it's just a matter of time. In my humble opinion, this is not financial advice, it's just the theory that, again, the first man through the door was Bitcoin, second man through the door is Ethereum. It just makes it, I don't understand why this would be an issue for the Ethereum class trust that they currently have, which is trading at $12.20 a share. You can buy it in your IRAs, in your 401ks, right? And the fair value is 26 and change, right? Almost $27. So I don't know. It just seems like, for me, it's the discount to net asset value is greater here in Ethereum Classic than it was in Bitcoin at its lows, right? Bitcoin max discount was around 47%, I think, in the spring of 2023, fall of 2022. If I'm not mistaken, my dates might be off, but I don't know. It just seems like a layup to me, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm looking right now because I remember after all this news broke, my first thought was of you, Bill. I was like, oh, that trade Bill was talking about, it's probably looking pretty good. And it was initially. That ETH Classic Trust was spiking. You're right, got up to close to 19. That discount, I should say, a lot of it had gone away. So I was like, oh, Bill's sitting pretty. He's going to be in the catbird seat next time he comes on the show. And you're right, it seems like the worm has turned again. That discount is back to looks like a 42%. Coming into the end of last week's, might even be more now. And right. ETH Classic Trust Grayscale back down to about a 12.20 and change. You're right. So interesting. Looks like the worm has turned again out there, sir. So we might have to postpone that celebration another couple of months. What do you think?
Well, yeah, I think so. I think you're right, Mark. I mean, listen, we've been having conversations on blockchain and digital currencies for years. And I mean, I'm kind of internally, I'm all in. So sometimes I do get a little overzealous and I'm early with these things. But Ethereum Classic still has really good volume. It has a great foundation. People are still developing on it. And again, maybe it's just one of those names that are just not as hot or as exciting as Toncoin or Solana and some of the other things that are coming across our desk. But again, each ETF, I think, will be easier to approve. They're collecting and gaining massive assets under management. The BlackRocks, the Fidelities, the Global X's, they want this. This is so good for them. And so I think, you're just going to have to pick your stop loss or pick what you're willing to risk. Don't risk more than you can afford to lose, right? And I just think it's just an interesting, there's not that many really good values out there, right? What are we seeing that's trading at a discount? Not that much, right? S&P, QQQ, NVIDIA, all this stuff's trading at premiums. Like what really, real estate in China, like those are the only those things trading at a low discount, right? Out of favor. And I think that this is an out of favor token that might have a possibility.
Now, the devil's always in the detail with these regulatory filings, right? Have they said specifically that ETH Classic will also be approved for the ETF? Or, I mean, because you never know. They could say ETH, that's fine, and then ETH Classic, no bueno, right? Which So it's always the devil's in the details. Have you heard anything about ETH Classic at all?
No, nothing whatsoever. It's just I'm making the assumption that there are legitimate foundations, there are legitimate tokens that have a real use case, and Grayscale and Coinbase know these better than anybody. And they started with their Ethereum trust. And listen, and one of the legal tenets of the lawsuit between Grayscale and the Securities and Exchange Commission was the fact that the SEC rules were preventing them from unlocking shareholder value. It wasn't fair that these things it wasn't fair to investors that something could trade at a 50% discount, yet offer the futures contracts at the mercantile, or double inverse ETFs rather than the actual ETF being approved. So I'm going on an underlying theme that, so if I'm wrong, the trust is going to stay unchanged at a 50% discount to NAV. If I'm right, then should theoretically double my money, right? When it goes up to net asset value. And if I'm wrong, and Ethereum Classic just is this junky, has no use case whatsoever, then we should see the price decrease in the underlying token, which is trading at $27 a token. I don't think we're going to see it as much in the Grayscale closed trust. So again, speculation, it's 100% speculation. It's just a theory that I'm working on, a theory that I'm toe dipping in. But you're 100% right. We have no idea how this stuff is going to go.
I think it's an interesting theory. It's one I've been keeping an eye on. I'm just looking at this chart right now, Mr. Bill, of the graph of the discounts and premiums in ETH Classic. The lowest minimum was January 3rd of last year, 77% discount. That's not bad. And the highest it got was June of 2019, June 17th, 459.3% premium.
Yeah, those days are over, I think. But remember, when it was trading at a 70% discount, this was in a horrible, regulatory conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, we thought for sure that, there was rumors that Barry Silbert was, from Grayscale was going to get put up on charges for, what was going on with the FTX exchange and Genesis and all of. I mean, it was a complete mess out there. And listen, I'm wrong. I've got nothing that I don't have a leg to stand on, Mark. I mean, the truth is that we're probably unchanged on our P&L. I think we bought the Grayscale trust at around 11.50 or 11.70 and 11.7 per share in some of our accounts. So, I mean, I'm up small, but it's just a very, very small position in what we're doing. And again, a completely speculative trade in the belief that the Grayscale, one after another will have their ETFs approved, because it's the way the world is going. I mean, that's my perspective.
If you are intrigued, listeners, one we've been talking about with Mr. Bill for a while here, ETCG is the ticker out there, trading at close to 50% discount. So if the approvals do come to pass and they extend to ETH Classic, then you could expect at least that trading somewhere near parity. So that could be an interesting do, as they say. Either way, worth researching out there as we do some of our own research here on the show, including looking at the vol on the ETH landscape. 7-day vol, not really a huge difference, 57.5 on the show last week, 57.1. So ETH kind of treading water out there this week. 30-day vol coming in a little bit, though. 63.5 on the show last week, 60.3, so coming in about 3.2 points on the week. And let's go out 6 months, 71.65 on the show last week. This week, 69.4, so coming in over about 2.25 points out there on the longer term vol front. Let's see if the skew backs that up. And the answer is yeah, for the most part. 7-day skew last week was actually fairly frothy. It was 5.5 points to the upside. That's pretty much cut in half this week, down to about 2.25. Still biased to the upside, but obviously less so. 30-day skew, 4.38 to be precise on the show last week. This week, about 3.5. So coming in almost a full point, about 0.9 out there. And the 6-month skew, almost a positive 6 last week, 5.9. Still around that level this week, positive 6.1. So near dated, at least, we're seeing a little bit of upside bias, and that continues and gets even stronger the longer and farther out you go on the ETH front. Speaking of going out, let's go out through the rest of the altcoin universe. And I know Mr. Bill's always got some fun altcoin burning a hole in his back pocket he'll want to tell us about. Let's get out to Solana first. Given up a little bit since our last show, 165.41 Last week, 161.94. This week, down about 3.5 points. Let's go out to XRP, and let's see, 51. Again, I joked on the show recently, but it wasn't really that much of a joke. Like, why do we keep talking about XRP? I could almost close my eyes and just say 52 cents, and I'm usually in the ballpark. We were at exactly 52 cents this time a week ago. Coming in a little bit this week, 49 cents, so yet another week that is not the week for the XRP holders out there, down a whopping 2 cents. Doge, 16 cents last week, 14.5 cents, so giving up some of that juice this week. Litecoin, 83.25 last week, 79.96, so ticking below 80, down 3.29 points on the week. Cardano, 45 cents last week, 44 cents this week, so giving up almost a full penny out there. Polkadot 711 last week, 655 this week, down 56 cents. And everybody's favorite, Shiba Inu, going from 1 million zeros to 4 this week. It is a 2-3. So giving up a little bit of the ghost this week. No Shiba Lambos for you folks out there. But Mr. Bill, you're always looking at some intriguing altcoin out there. What's catching your eye this week?
Listen, I'm going to talk about this token called Stacks. And I know that I've always beat the drum with again, I just like Coinbase. I appreciate what they're doing. And Stacks is a really interesting project. The symbol is STX on the cryptocurrency side. And it is a layer 2. Okay, so when you think of Bitcoin, you think of digital cash, digital gold, right? This store of value. When you think about Ethereum, you think about smart contracts and time, money that's, locked up in value, time value locked up in smart contracts. Stacks is a project that allows you to create smart contracts on the Bitcoin network. So the Bitcoin network is the most secure computer network in the world. And Stacks is the token that allows people to exchange, on the network to create smart contracts. So it's kind of like a cross between smart contracts that are Ethereum-based style, but on the secure network of Bitcoin. So I like, so Grayscale recently announced that they have a private placement in their Stacks protocol. Again, like Ethereum Classic, it could be trading at a huge discount. It could be trading at a big premium. We don't know yet. But once again, I believe that Stacks could be one of those tokens, just like the Solana Trust and the Ethereum Classic Trust and this Bitcoin Trust at one time, that, keep an eye on when this thing begins trading, in the over-the-counter market for an IRA or 401k, the brokerage firm. And I like Stacks because people who are into staking their token Stacks, their reward comes in Bitcoin. And when you stake Bitcoin to secure the Stacks network, you receive Stacks as a token. So I find it a really interesting relationship between Stacks and Bitcoin. Again, smart contracts, but in the world's most secure computer network. So that's my token for this particular conversation.
Bill's token of the week. We need a drop for that. What is Bill's token of the week in the altcoin universe? This week it is Stacks, listeners. Ticker symbol STX. Looking at it right now here. It was trading back in September of last year around 45, 46 cents. That was the low for the year. Then it went on a nice run all the way up, topping out in March around $3.65 before coming right back down, getting cut pretty much in half, down to about $1.83 just about a week and change ago. And then since then, it had a nice little rally, got up to about $2.40 again before coming back down to where it is right now, right around $2.17. So obviously, roughly 5x from its lows, 4 to 5x, but also a ways off its highs of about 365 set back in March as well. So intriguing stuff. Let us know, listeners, if that floats your boat out there, a little bit of Stacks. All right, listeners, that music means we've come to the end of another fun journey through the world of crypto this week. But before we go, Mr. Bill, if folks want to chat with you about all this fun stuff we're talking about, maybe want to check out your book, where should they go? What should they do, sir?
Well, you can go to Amazon.com and look for the self-published book this book is designed for estate professionals and financial advisors. It's a book about how to, what happens to your cryptocurrency after your client dies and the information you need to know beforehand if you want to successfully recover assets. So The book is a short book. It's just the essential information that any estate planner, or actually, if you are a holder of the what I would call the if you self-custody your own assets, this might be something that you would want to buy a copy for a loved one or for your estate planning attorney, just to help them recover your assets if, unfortunately, you were to pass away, and to make sure that those assets get transferred and put into your estate for your beneficiaries. Take care of your family and all your foundations and all your good works. So again, Amazon.com is the essential estate professional toolkit for recovering cryptocurrency. And if they are interested in their IRAs or 401ks, rollover IRAs, you've got some old legacy accounts at a previous employer or a gig economy, we'd love to have that conversation to get you started in our ETF platform. And always, again, we add a little bit of GBTC, and soon to be adding other tokens to our accounts, Mark, as they kind of come online. So that's what we're doing.
A little bit of ETH Classic in the offing soon.
For our clients that, on a scale of 1 to 100, if they score 99 in risk, we put a little ETH Classic in that.
Well, check him out there, listeners. Check out his book. Give him a follow on the old Twitters as well, at Cenacle, Cenacle, capital, all one word. And while you're at it, make sure you're checking out our friends over there at Amber Data. AmberData.io, the place to go to kick the tires and light the fires. A lot of great information and data over there as well. It's going to do it for us on the network today. Back again tomorrow with a pro Q&A. Chatting with our friend Mr. Steve Sosnick over there at IB, fielding all your questions about all things options and volatility and everything else. If you want to hit him up with some crypto, get on over there, theoptionsinsider.com/pro. Get your name in the hat. That also gets you access to the 350 plus episodes that are sitting there waiting for you right now, plus the options oddities every week. Get your name in the drawing for the Pro Trading Crate giveaway and a whole bunch more. Theoptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go. And make sure you're checking out the rest of the network throughout the week. Lots of great content coming at you until we're back again next Monday. Another episode of the Crypto Rundown. Stay safe out there, everybody.
The Crypto Rundown is brought to you by Amber Data. If you're entering the digital asset class, you'll need access to granular on-chain and market data from multiple venues to power research, trading, risk management, and compliance. Amber Data delivers comprehensive data and insights into blockchain networks, crypto markets, and decentralized finance, empowering financial institutions to apply traditional finance methods to digital assets. Amber Data eliminates the infrastructure setup, integration challenges, and maintenance headaches to access digital asset data, reducing cost and time to market to enter the digital asset class. Learn more and download their digital asset data guide at www.amberdata.io. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.